Let me ask you if this sounds familiar to you. Hey, honey, how'd your day go? Fine. Anything fun happen? No. Did you learn anything today? Nothing. Sounds pretty familiar. If you're a parent, you obviously have children. If they're in the school system, they want to talk to you as little as possible at the end of the day. One word answers is pretty common. Heck, you might even get this from a spouse. Hey, honey, how was work today? Fine. Any new projects come in? No, same old, same old. This is an unfortunate rut that we get ourselves in. In some cases, it might just be because you're tired, you want to avoid the conversation. But the bigger issue, and that's what I want to discuss with you today, is how you're actually assessing the moments of your life, the quality of your day. Now, because when you have kids that have special needs, ADHD, Asperger's, or whatever, and I speak from experience here, I've got 3 boys with ADHD and Asperger's, there was that time when you were walking around on alert, hypervigilant, waiting for that other shoe to drop, waiting for the phone to ring with the principal or the counselor or the social worker or somebody else reporting some kind of an issue. And you waited until the end of the day to allow yourself the opportunity to relax. That is, of course, if your child sleeps. There can be other issues, but you know what I'm getting at here, is you spend so much time waiting to be hit that you don't have any aspects of your life that are actually about creating something, where you have plans for the day. I remember a time when I made sure I stayed close to home as much as possible in case there was a crisis, that I could get to the school as fast as possible. I knew my son's pattern to the point where I knew about when he hit his threshold in the course of a day. So I would know what time of day I needed to be as close as possible so that if I did need to come and get him, I could, and so on. I've worked with parents over the years that have decided not to work. They have very few friends because they don't want to leave their child for a risk that something would happen and only they can handle it. And even after years have passed and their child is a little bit more balanced, has better strategies, can calm themselves down, parents can proceed from a what if standpoint. Oh, things are great now, but what if? And they self-isolate over the years. So that's the 30,000 foot view. But let's get into a very specific aspect of life that gets neglected when you teach yourself to become reactive, to wait for a crisis to show up and then react, do something, put out a fire, and then wait for the next one. This is an exhausting way to live. This is not a recipe for happiness, for gratitude. So let's start with a definition here to give a little context. It's been said by many that the key to happiness is progress. We like to feel like we're getting somewhere, like we're accomplishing something. And for ourselves, if we're scatterbrains, we have ADHD or Asperger's. If our kids have these challenges, they're so used to bumping up against walls that they begin to see that as their primary or sometimes their only option. And it can get to the point where that's all they notice. They don't even bother with the good stuff because it pales in comparison to everything that didn't go right that day. And I discovered this when my oldest boy, who's now in college, was coming home every day negative. I hate the teacher. I hate these kids. This is terrible. This is awful. And he seemed to have nothing good to share. So what I did was I just kind of thought about how do I start him off on a positive note? How do I compel him to find the good throughout his day? And what I essentially came up with are two very simple questions. And I use these with my boys and I use these with all my clients. And it's amazing how transformative these simple questions can be. And here they are. What went right? What could go better? That's it. I'm not interested in who was a jerk today. I'm not interested in the time the teacher yelled. I want you to tell me the story of how you were effective, but how you created results that you enjoyed. So I start with the positive. What went right? And if they say, oh, nothing, same old day, I'll say, well, you just walked through the door, didn't you? You didn't get run over by a car. The bus didn't crash. That went right. Did you eat breakfast without choking on it? Yeah, that went right. So there are a lot of things that are taken for granted, but they should be counted in the plus column in terms of ways you were effective. Because even though they are habitual and they are common, it shows a baseline of competence that you have. And if things go right as far as a test or a question you answered at school, if you came up with a wonderful insight at work that you were rewarded for, that went right, and you can build on it. Because we don't want success to be an accident. We don't want it to be lucky. We want it to be replicatable, duplicatable, something that you can repeat and something you can look at and say, that's a great starting point. I wonder what else I can do. What more can I do with this? And then you ask yourself, what could go better? So you're not saying, man, what sucked today? You're not asking, man, why does this stuff always happen to me? Wrong question. What could go better? Maybe you had some plans. There were some things you didn't consider, some variables that showed up that kind of derailed your plan. That doesn't sound like life at all, does it? But when that does happen, you can reflect upon it and say, what could go better? Well, I had this well-laid plan, but then this variable showed up that I didn't anticipate. So what can go better is to include that in my plan next time so I have better results. So both of those things are positive, outcome, solution-driven. What went right that I can celebrate? What went right that I can repeat, duplicate, build upon? What could go better? What can I learn from? That's what that question is. What can I learn from? And those two questions, if you make that a daily habit, to come home at the end of a school day, to come home after work, and your spouse says, how was your day? Well, let me tell you, some awesome things happened today. This really went right. This part was great. But you know what? I also learned there's something I need to work on. And you talk about that too. So you're always picturing yourself in action, creating, making things happen, as opposed to being reactive and feeling like you just showed up to take the hits. So these two questions can be very powerful. I invite you to find an accountability partner, somebody you're going to begin building this habit with, so that they check in with you to answer the two questions and you reciprocate. In fact, I'm offering myself up as an accountability partner. If you want to message me at the end of every day, send me a private message or an email, whatever works best for you, and tell me. Say, hey, Bri, I just want to tell you what went right today. And I also want to tell you what I need to work on. I want to tell you what can work better. And it can just be a couple sentences. It doesn't have to be a comprehensive overview of your day. What's important is that you're getting into the habit of requiring yourself to see your world through that lens. And just answering those two questions changes what you focus on. You go from victim to action taker. You go from a recipient of life to a creator of it, just with two questions. It's amazingly powerful, and it can be very transformative. I like simplicity, don't you? So when your kids come home from school today, if they're used to being grumpy and don't want to talk, just ask those questions. What went right today? Nothing. Well, you already know the response to that. You walked through the door, didn't you? You didn't get hit by a bolt of lightning. You didn't get run over by a car. You came through that door safely. When dinner's on the table, oh, that went right. There are so many things that can be accounted for that remind you, I am moving forward. I am making progress. I'm making a life. So hopefully this was helpful to you. If so, feel free to leave a comment below. Let me know what was helpful. And again, private message me either with questions you have about this or to share your answers to the 2 questions. And if there are other people you think can benefit from this, share away. The more the merrier. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you giving him a little bit of your time today. This has been Brian King. Talk again real soon.